can hear what you're saying. Oh, not another one of those. Cheers. I made a pretty ridiculous ring. Let's see how we did that, huh? Here I've got some silver coins. I've hammered it out into an ingot, stretched it out in the roller, and I'm gonna try here to make the end cut as clean as possible. And I obviously file it down. Here I'm using my calipers to measure out, and I'm doing that thing that they told me not to do, using my precision calipers to make etchings on a measurement. And yeah, I remembered about halfway through that not to do that anymore. Well, anyway. Here I'm making a cut, and again I'm rotating the ingot to make sure that the cut is pretty clean and not lopsided, and you can laugh at how long it takes me. Here I'm transferring the measurement to the compass so I can scribe without scratching up my calipers. I go ahead and scribe a lot more of these and cut a lot more. So basically what I'm trying to do is make a watch band style movement. So it kind of looks like a brick wall. Here I'm kind of showing myself the overlaps, making sure that I have enough room. I went with 5 layers. Clean up all the edges, and then I mark my lines. I go ahead and use my calipers again, like a dummy. And then I make a mark where I'm going to drill using a punch, and then I'm drilling it out about 2 millimeters away from the edge. Here I'm fitting the wire in just to prove to myself that my design might work. And go ahead and use a compass to scribe the rest of them. Here's my first row. Looks pretty good. I go ahead and jig up a second row just to make sure that there's enough wiggle room. The basic concern would be that there's not enough room to actuate it. Here I'm attempting to fuse together the ball end of the wire, and I kind of figured out that using a charcoal block wasn't good enough. Move up to my third hand. Here's the first finished row with balled ends of the wire, kind of holding it in. Here I'm setting up my second row. I go ahead and use the third hand from here on out. I'm using propane here to ball up the ends. Setting up that third row. This is getting pretty tedious at this point. I'm maybe like 3 or 4 hours in. I make sure to ball up one end of the wire before I put it through so that it has a stable half before I fuse up the second half. I quickly learned that I need to move to MAP gas because MAP gas has more power here. The rest of the silver is really soaking up a lot of the heat, so it's making it harder and harder for those balls to form together by melting the ends of the wire. So from here on out I'm using MAP gas. It's kind of fun how the ball has so much surface tension that it likes adhering to itself more than it likes to drip. So when you melt it, it's actually slurping up into itself. And that's how we get that ball effect. It's actually easier to make the ball effect upside down than right side up, because right side up it'll drip. if you go upside down, the surface tension overcomes gravity as opposed to being pulled down by gravity. I don't know why, but it's much easier going from the bottom up. Putting together another row. That one actually moved pretty smooth. At this point, I'm quickly learning that this is not going to be a bracelet. I'm pivoting here to a ring. So I cut 2 smaller bars to be the back end of the ring, and then I go ahead and stretch them out. But I'm going to use the same technique to append them to the rest of the structure by drilling through. So the reason I draw out the metal here instead of just starting with a big chunky bar is underneath your finger it doesn't really like to have a whole bunch of metal. This is a very comfortable piece on the finger. You can close your hand like this. I'm doing a lot of hammer work on the anvil, basically rounding it on the horn to get it thinner and round. So that's what's happening off the screen here. Eventually come up with 2 pretty similar shanks, and here I'm test fitting them into the rest of the structure, and I'm pretty happy with how that came together. Here I'm scribing where the drill cuts are going to be made and punching out. So once I drilled those out, I threw the wire through them on one side at a time. This is kind of like the fun part right here, where it really is coming together, because it kind of looks like a ring at this point. I'm trimming the excess because I don't need too much. And disaster strikes. If you see all the way to the left side, I actually fuse together one of the links with the end of the wire before I get around to providing enough heat on the link I actually wanted to fuse up. So I'm really kicking myself at this point because I have to cut that whole row out and redo that link. You can see the link with the wire fused to it. So I get around to finishing that up off screen and go in for the second half. I'm pinning together the second half of the ring. At this point the whole structure is really soft, it's really annealed because I've hit it with heat so many times. I'm just rounding it up here on the mandrel really quick, just to make sure that the design works at all. I go and trim. Here I'm fusing up the last wire ball, and it takes me a while because this whole thing is soaking up heat. One last quench the last time I hit the fire. So that's basically how it looks. It's kind of silly looking, huh? Looks like a brick wall. I go ahead and polish it up, just take some of that surface off. There are a few links here that are kind of ugly, and I go ahead and file them down and polish them again. And one last time on the mandrel. Really needed to hit this a lot to make sure that the underneath, because it's so thin, the underneath is really was really fragile until I work hardened it. So that's the ring. I hope you liked this video. And thank you for watching.